Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 34 of the Unstoppable Entertainment Show, the most comprehensive entertainment news show on the internet. I am, of course, Nate Schaffner, otherwise known as the Unstoppable Nate. How are you all doing today? I hope you're doing well. I hope everything is good, and I hope that this show can provide some joy in everyone's life. So I hope you enjoy the show today. I might actually do a couple today. I don't know. I have the day off, so we'll see. It's kind of a gloomy, rainy day here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and so uh, seems like a good day to relax. So anyway, I hope you're doing okay today, and I hope you enjoy the show. So before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that if you like this show, if you like what you see, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and spread the word and tell your friends about the show. Also, if you have a question, a comment, or if you'd like me to talk about certain movies or franchises, you can email me anytime at the address listed in the description of this video. So, without further ado, let's get started today. And let's get started with this. So, I've said recently with certain announcements, certain announcements that have come out have made me um, reminisce about the things I enjoyed when I was a kid, and I used to be a really big gamer. Not so much anymore. I fell out of the uh, I fell out of the loop years ago, so I haven't really played any video games in a while. But there have been numerous. Well, I wouldn't say numerous. There have been a few video game to film adaptations that have actually been quite enjoyable. I loved. I really enjoyed the first two Sonic the Hedgehog movies, and the third one is great. Like I'm not being facetious at all. The third Sonic the Hedgehog movie is awesome. Um, you know, um, and then of course they have the Last of Us TV series, and there has been my wife Katie and I saw the Super Mario Brothers animated movie, and we like that. That was fun. And they're doing a sequel to that. The Super Mario Galaxy movie. Um, so there recently there has been some success in adapting video games to film, and from this article I'm about to read, there could be another one. This article comes from is on Deadline, published by Andreas Weissman. This article says survival horror game Dark Deception is being adapted into a feature film by writers Adrian Speckert and Corey Todd Hughes of U.S. indie outfit So It Goes Entertainment. Let's see. Created by Vincent Livings and released by Glowstick Entertainment, Dark Deception blends arcade-style gameplay and psychological horror. Players must navigate nightmarish mazes where monsters lurk at every turn. According to So It Goes, the game has shifted 6.5 million units and has a player count of 58 million worldwide. Casting and production details are still in discussions on the development project. So, okay, this is. So, I'm not familiar with the video game at all. Maybe some people out there are. This sounds a little bit like Five Nights at Freddy's, which um, I enjoy those video games. I enjoyed those. I think those are. Yeah, I don't want to downplay the significance. I don't want to downplay how much I enjoyed the Five Nights at Freddy's video games. I know people that have played those video games that were those games really really scared them. And I just want to say that I grew up at a time where okay, those games scared you. Try playing Resident Evil. Resident Evil scared the bejesus out of me. So, but I think Five Nights at Freddy's is a different kind of scary. Like, it's more jump scare and more kind of, you have to be on your guard a lot. Resident Evil is more eerie, and you're not sure what's gonna happen, and it's kind of this eerie atmosphere. But I still like the Five Nights at Freddy's I like the Five Nights at Freddy's video games, but I just, it's a different kind of scary than I was used to. But I'm not familiar with the video game. But obviously, you know, with the recent success of certain video game to film adaptations, um, it seems as though Hollywood is wants to keep enjoying that success, and Dark Deception sounds like it could be a good survival horror kind of movie. Excuse me. And again, it sounds similar to Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know. I haven't played the game. Maybe some of you have. But it sounds appealing. It sounds like this is something that audiences could enjoy. So I don't really have much to offer other than that. But jump in the comment section and let me know what you think. Are you familiar with Dark Deception? What do you think about this idea? Jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Excuse me, just a second. All right, so this next bit of news really just kind of puts a smile on my face. So, one of my favorite movies as a kid was the original Jumanji. I love that movie I love that movie so much. It's kind of now that I watch it as an adult, it's kind of it's certainly visually like a feast for the eyes, all from a visual standpoint. I mean, just the stampede through the house alone, and the flooding, and all the visual effects stuff is great. The plot is a little thin, I think, but the movie's just fun. It's a fun movie, and Robin Williams is great. Bonnie Hunt. It's a fun movie. So when they announced that they were going to do a sequel, and this was back in 2017, I think it was going to be Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and Dwayne the Rock Johnson, who I've always been a fan of him, whether it was in pro wrestling or acting. I've always enjoyed watching him. Dwayne Johnson, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and Karen Gillan. And I think everybody was just like, why are you doing a sequel? I mean, it's not a Jumanji. The original Jumanji is not a I don't want to say it's a classic, but it's kind of, there's a certain fan base. There's a fan base around Jumanji that you don't want to. Doing a sequel to Jumanji without Robin Williams seemed, kind of sacrilegious. So I think everybody was kind of like, why are you doing a sequel to Jumanji? Like, of all the things to do. And that movie's, the first Jumanji sequel, the first one with Dwayne Johnson and Karen Gillan and Jack Black, that movie's awesome. That movie's awesome. And let's be real here for a second. That movie had no business being as good as it was. Nobody thought that movie was going to be any good, and it was. And you know what? I'll say it. The Jumanji, the first Jumanji movie with Dwayne Johnson and Jack Black and Kevin Hart and Karen Gillan, that first one is better than the original. It is, and I know that's sacrilegious to say, but the second one's awesome. And then they did Jumanji 3. What was the title of that one? It's going to bug me. The Next Level. That one was pretty good too. That one was pretty good too. I didn't like it as much as the second one, but I still had a lot of fun with it. And again, somehow these these newer Jumanji movies are better than the original, in my opinion, of course. And by the way, I loved the uh, Robin Williams' character from Jumanji. His name is Alan Parrish. Is that right? Um, I loved. I'm gonna uh, kind of say something very personal to me. Say something personal right now. The death of Robin Williams and the circumstances surrounding it, surrounding his death. Um, it took, and I'm just speaking for myself, and I know a lot of people. Um, I know a lot of people miss Robin Williams, and I'm one of them, and I still miss him. And the death of Robin Williams, I and again, I'm only speaking for myself. The death of Robin Williams and the circumstances surrounding it, it took me a long time to grieve properly about that. In fact, I'm still grieving. It was something that uh, shocked us all, and as a fan of as a passionate film fan and a fan of actors and I just love everything about the movies. Um, I was I was shocked, and it took me a long time to cope with um, the fact that this man who gave so much to all of us uh, was shockingly and suddenly no longer around. Um, and I'll never forget this, and I'm about to reveal something very. The morning after news broke that he had died, I just randomly uh, I got on YouTube and prayed and played "Friend Like Me" from Aladdin, and I burst into tears. I mean, it's that's how memorable his legacy was, and that's now going back to Jumanji. I think that's one of the reasons why, in a lot of people's minds, a sequel to Jumanji was looked down upon. And and there's a fun, like I said, I think his character's name in Jumanji is Alan Parrish, if I'm remembering that right. There was a there was a really heartfelt tribute to Robin Williams' character in the first sequel, and that kind of that made me smile. That kind of like, oh, it's that, it was just one of those things where, you know, this new group of actors that's coming in to do the sequel, um, they're honoring the movie that allowed them to do the sequel in the first place, and they're honoring Robin Williams and what he brought, and it was just it was a nice, it was a very touching little tribute to Robin Williams in that first sequel, and it made me smile. So anyway, so now that I've having said all that, I don't think anybody knew, I don't think anybody thought that these Jumanji sequels would be any good. And it turns out they were. And now we have more news regarding the future of the Jumanji film franchise. This report is on CBR, published by Monica Cohen. So there has been, basically, the first part of this article reveals that there is going to be officially a fourth Jumanji movie. The film, I believe, is filming right now, but there is going to be a fourth one. So let me see here. The fourth film will premiere on Christmas next year. It started production on November 11th. There's been some glimpses at the table read of the script. So, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to see here. At the bottom of this article, Monica Cohen, who wrote this article, states, "There aren't many details about the plot of the fourth installment, but Dwayne Johnson confirmed the new entry will end the franchise. When sharing the first pictures of the table read, the Smashing Machine actor confirmed that Jumanji 4 will be the final movie. Feels emotionally appropriate for our beloved Jumanji franchise to end on this beautiful grace note of our final film," he wrote in a caption. Set for release on December 10th, 2026, the final entry will wrap the franchise 31 years after the Robin Williams-led original Jumanji. So, again, I don't think anybody thought that these Jumanji sequels would be any good, and it turns out they were very entertaining and really good. And there's nothing to suggest that this fourth and final installment will go any differently. I'm relieved that these movies have been as good as they have been, because they easily could have gone the other way. um, and uh, in terms of it being the final movie of the franchise, as far as Dwayne Johnson goes, I think it's clear that he wants to start um, doing different kinds of things while also having doing the more doing he wants to start forming. I'm trying to think of the right words here. I apologize. Uh, he wants to move on and start doing other kinds of things in addition to the kinds of movies that he's been doing before. And I think Jumanji 4, uh, it being the last one, I think it's a fitting. I think it falls in line with that. Um, and the chemistry between all the actors in these sequels is so hilarious. Jack Black, in especially in the second one, Welcome to the Jungle, is so funny. I mean, what was so brilliant about what Jack Black did in the second one specifically is he was playing a teenage, like a Gen Z teenage girl, but he wasn't making fun of Gen Z teenage girls. He was just it was great. It was great. I'm having a hard time explaining it, but these movies are so fun and so entertaining, and again, I think it's clear that the audiences love these movies. But I think specifically in terms of Dwayne Johnson's career, it's clear that he wants to start looking in other directions creatively. So I think Jumanji 4 being the last one that falls in line with what he wants to do career wise. I know he's got the live action Moana coming out. But it's gonna be emotional seeing the fourth and final Jumanji movie. One, because I don't think we ever thought we'd get a sequel to Jumanji. I don't think we ever thought we'd get a sequel that was any good. I don't think we ever thought we'd get multiple sequels that were good. And there's nothing to suggest that this fourth one will be any different. So it's going to be kind of bittersweet to see the fourth and final one, but I'm really looking forward to it. These movies are damn entertaining, and as more plot details emerge, I'll have more to talk about in regards to that. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about a fourth and final Jumanji movie. So this next bit of news is interesting. So one of my favorite actors has always been John Travolta, and unfortunately, I think he's a tremendous talent. Unfortunately, I don't think that the material he's done has always served that talent. I think let's be real. I mean, his career has kind of been a roller coaster. It's had its highest of highs and it's had its lowest of lows. And you can always go, oh, what if this never happened, or what if this never happened? John Travolta could have easily. I there's a certain way of looking at one's career. John Travolta could have easily. I, I I think he had the potential to be one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. unfortunately, he it just didn't happen. He had a couple of career resurgences, but he's kind of had an up and down career. But I've always liked him. I've always loved his talent. It's just that for whatever reason he started picking questionable projects, and but it is what it is. But anyway, he's always been one of my favorite actors. So um, this article is on Joe Blow. He's going to be in an upcoming horror thriller movie, which is interesting because I don't think he's ever been in a project like this. So this article is on Joe Blow, published by Cody Haman. Um, and this article says, coming our way from Pangea Studios and director Christopher J. Scott is the AI horror thriller Ed, which is currently filming in Atlanta, Georgia. So this might be done filming, but I'm not sure as of right now. The film stars John Travolta, who received Oscar nominations for Saturday Night Fever and Pulp Fiction. Crystal Reed of Teen Wolf, the movie, and Swamp Thing, and Chet Hanks of Running Point and Your Honor. The film, which is said to be the first on a slate of genre-forward, filmmaker-driven projects at Pangea Studios, will tell us the story of a sentient AI chauffeur bot that escapes the lab and begins killing reckless drivers under the guise of public safety. Its grief-stricken creator must stop the carnage before the machine evolves into the embodiment of AI gone bad. So this is interesting, and it sounds like this could be a very thought-provoking film. I think whether you work in the entertainment industry or not, I think everybody is aware that AI is the future. And depending on who gets their hands on it, it could be a very scary future. It could be a very questionable future. I for one am uh, nervous about the future of AI in our world. To put it simply, AI in the wrong hands could be devastating. But I also think there are benefits to it if it's handled properly. I actually I have not really a friend. I have an acquaintance of mine who I won't name, but um, he is legitimately paranoid that um, something similar to um, the Terminator, and I don't mean to chuckle, but because I mean I mean he's legitimately paranoid that something similar to the Terminator could happen, and he's terrified. Um, and I would just say I I I sympathize with that. I can understand where he's coming from, because uh, it's something to seriously think about. So John Travolta and the rest of this cast, Chet Hanks, who is obviously the son of Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, um, doing an AI horror thriller, if done well, could be a film that uh, gets people talking. I mean, it could also be just a piece of schlocky entertainment, but I think the potential threat of I needs to be taken seriously, and my hope is that this is a movie. I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want my expectations to, you know, I hope that this movie is done in a way that it's thought provoking material, and this is where I'm going to kind of I've always believed in uh, the the power of cinema. Um, I've always believed that uh, movies can uh, evoke uh, and elicit emotional responses with their audiences. Um, anybody, anybody who says to me, "Oh, it's just a movie," fuck off, fuck right off. I've literally walked out of movies uh, in tears, and I can tell you the names of those movies. I've literally walked out of movies in tears because of how powerful the story of those particular movies were. Um, so I think this and I think this plot of this movie has the potential to do that. Especially an a story about AI in the genre of horror and thriller. I think that could be done really well. And again, John Travolta has kind of had. I I I, I hope it's a good project. I hope it goes well for him. Um, and it'd be great to see him in another. It'd be great to see him in a huge, successful movie again. So I think this sounds really interesting. I'm hopeful that it's more um, thought provoking and less schlocky entertainment. But we'll see. I don't want to get my hopes up, and all I when this movie comes out, I'm going to check my expectations at the door, and just see what happens. But we'll see. Um, so jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about this. So this next bit of news um, is a bit of streaming TV news. Um, so one of my favorite, well, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite, um, but I like it. Horror franchises is The Conjuring. I love the first two Conjuring movies. I have I think prior to the release of the first, or at least prior to the first time I watched the first Conjuring movie, I had been very critical about modern horror film, modern horror films. To me, um, modern horror, modern horror films have really stunk. They're just not good. I mean, even going back to the '90s. I mean, other than Scream, '90s horror sucked. It was just a bunch of sequels and remakes. I mean, it was terrible. Um, and I so modern horror for me has kind of it was just an over embellishment of blood and gore, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I am a gore hound. I do love seeing blood splatter everywhere, and all that stuff. But it just got there. It just it for me. It started to be kind of like, is this all they're capable of doing? Like, just there's no. I mean, it sounds weird to say about the horror genre, but there's no substance to it. All they can do is blood and guts and just an overabundance of it. And I never and I but the first Conjuring movie really changed my mind. It's just like, oh, that was great. That was really really well done. And then the second Conjuring, I love I love that one too. Not quite as much as the first one, um, but it was pretty close. I mean, I dearly love the first two Conjuring movies. I didn't like the first Annabelle movie. I hated that movie, to be honest with you. I couldn't stand it. And then which came first? There was Annabelle Creation, and then there was Annabelle Comes Home. I think, is that right? Annabelle Creation and Annabelle Comes Home. I really enjoyed those two. And then, in fact, there was a moment. I saw Annabelle Creation and Annabelle Comes Home in the theater, and there was a moment in Annabelle Creation, and I'm not going to say what it is. You just have to there, but you'll know it if you watch the movie. There was a moment in Annabelle Creation where I'm sitting in the theater, and me and the guy sitting in the row in front of me. There was a moment that happened, and we were both just kind of like, nope, nope, hell no, nope, nope, absolutely. We were just like, oh my, no, nope. we were just we were just like, holy, nope. Uh, and we were both kind of laughing at each other that we both kind of had the same reaction. But anyway, so I really enjoyed those two. Not the first Annabelle, I hated that one, but the next two I really enjoyed them. And then there was the Nun. I hated that one. And then there was the Nun 2, which I don't think I've even seen that one because I heard that was terrible too. And then um, I saw the third Conjuring movie. It's tough for me to say my feelings on the third Conjuring movie. I liked the third Conjuring movie because it was different than the first two. Like, if you've seen the third Conjuring movie, the plot of the third of Conjuring 3, which I think is called The Devil Made Me Do It. I liked it because it was different than the first two, but the stuff, like everything in the movie, I found to be very lackluster. Like, it just didn't. I didn't hate it as much as I hated the first Annabelle movie, but I didn't like it, and I didn't even see uh, the last Conjuring movie, because I heard that wasn't very good. So, uh, in my mind, the Conjuring franchise um, is kind of hit and miss. Um, I personally feel that um, the movies in the Conjuring franchise that James Wan did not direct, like ever since James Wan stopped directing the Conjuring movies, and I understand, like, I'm not saying that him leaving the Conjuring film franchise was a mistake. He obviously wanted to do other things, and I applaud him for it. And I applaud him for it. And the stuff that he's done has been very good. But all I'm saying is that, other than for the most part, the movies in the Conjuring franchise that have not been directed by James Wan have not been good. For the most part. I didn't even see the last Conjuring movie. But I heard it was at least a massive financial success. So, um, there's more news regarding. Sorry, I'm a little stuffy today. I don't know if you can tell. So um, there's more news regarding the future of the Conjuring franchise. And the Conjuring, the more recent movie, I think it was called Conjuring Last Rites. It had this record smashing debut and everything. So at least, like I said, at least it was a massive financial success. So there's news regarding the future of the Conjuring franchise. This article is on MovieWeb, published by Marcos Melendez. And a little ways down here it says, despite the film, that's The Conjuring Last Rites, despite the film being marketed as the final chapter, a new era for The Conjuring is upon us, but it won't be on the big screen. Variety reports that HBO Max has hired Nancy Wone to write, executive produce, and serve as showrunner on the Conjuring series. So it's going to be a TV streaming series. WandaVision meaning writers, WandaVision writers Peter Cameron and Cameron Squires also form part of the writing team. The show has been in the works since 2023, but updates on its development have been silent until now. It seems the streamer is working quickly to get it off the ground, as Last Rites proved audiences are still interested in the horror universe. As of this writing, there is no timeline for when fans can expect the series to debut, but updates should now flow steadier with a showrunner officially at the helm. The report did not provide any plot details, but the Conjuring series is set to continue the story in some fashion. There is a chance that it could be a prequel focusing on other cases investigated by the Warrens, or a direct follow-up that takes place after Last Rites. No matter the case, HBO Max has secured an exciting creative team to usher in a new chapter in the franchise. Okay. So, I'm trying to think of how best to put this. I would love to see a revival of, not really a revival. Well, I guess I would like to see a revival of horror anthology kind of television series. Like when I was a kid, there was Tales from the Crypt, and Tales from the Crypt was awesome. I loved that. And then there was Goosebumps, although that was more kid friendly. Yeah, I mean Tales from the Crypt was kind of kid friendly, but it was scary, and Goosebumps was scary too. But I would love to see the revival of horror television. And I'm kind of mixed on The Conjuring becoming a series on streaming and on television. I'm kind of mixed about that. Only because, look, like this article points out, it's still very evident that audiences are interested in this franchise. As long as it's good. Um, at least in my mind. And look, I haven't seen the last Conjuring, Last Rites. I haven't seen the Nun 2. Excuse me. But it's pretty clear to me that the quality of the material has taken a dive. I want this franchise to be good, whether it's on the big or the small screen. And I would love, um, I would love to see a Conjuring TV series where it kind of chronicles all of the Warrens cases. Um, I have a very good friend of mine, Stephanie Sanders, who is a big fan of the Warrens as people. Like, and she loves what they she loves. She she was a she was a big fan of the Warrens as people, and she loved what the Warrens did for their profession. And I know that she would be very interested in, and quite frankly, I would be too. But seeing a TV series that chronicles the possibly chronicles the history of the cases that the Warrens were involved in, I think could be really, really good and really interesting. Whether that series is serialized or not, I think that could be really good. I mean, because let's face it. I mean, you could if you do the Conjuring, if you continue the Conjuring as the film franchise, there's only respectfully, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, um, because of you know, there's only so many stories you could tell in film because Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are obviously very popular within the industry. They're doing multiple projects, and they're not getting any younger. And I say that with great respect, but it's like there's only so many cases you could do in a film in a for there's only so many films you could do, and I think there's more opportunity to tell more stories on the small screen and maybe get an actor or an actress to play um, younger versions of them. I know I'm trying my best with what I want to say, and I don't know whether it's coming across very well. But um, what I'm trying to say is, uh, if you continue the Conjuring franchise specifically in films, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are only going to be available for so long. And you have to, given the success of it, you're going to have to find a way to continue the franchise without them. And I think a TV series could be the way to go. And maybe a TV series that chronicles their cases from the very first case to whenever could be really interesting. I know that this newest Conjuring movie, in a way, goes back to their very first case. So I know that much. So maybe they could do a TV series like an investigative kind of thing that chronicles all their cases. I think that could be interesting. I mean, maybe they could do a whole season um, based on based on Amityville. I mean, I know Amityville has, in terms of film, Amityville has been done to death. But maybe it could work on a small screen. I don't know. But I think a Conjuring TV series could be really, really interesting if done well. Because again, I think I think unfortunately the material in the Conjuring universe has gone significantly downhill. Um, and um, I just hope that it's good, and I hope that it's a success, and it could be really interesting. I You know what I love? I'd love a a Conjuring TV streaming series where you release every episode every week, so that you watch one episode and then you go to work or you go to school and then you talk about it for a week and you're like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next. That would be great. That's what I love to see. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about a Conjuring streaming series moving forward. Um, so let's move on here to this. So one of one of my favorite actors um, is Idris Elba, and he's done some very very interesting projects, and it seems like he really um, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. Sometimes I stumble with my words, and it irritates me. um, he it seems that Idris Elba could have easily um, taken a traditional leading man career route. But it seems to me that he's not interested in that. He's interested in doing projects that that he's interested in, and he doesn't really, to a certain extent, he doesn't care about the traditional um, leading man career. He cares about, oh, I believe in this project, I'm going to do it, whether that's a leading man or supporting. I mean, and he's done every. I mean, he was in Pacific Rim. He was in Ghost Rider 2 with Nicolas Cage. I mean, he was in um, The Dark Tower with Matthew McConaughey. I mean, he's done a wide range of genres. I worked on a Netflix movie that he was in called The Harder They Fall, and um, and it's really really good. And I'm not just saying that because I worked on it. Like if I thought it was crap, I would tell you it's crap. But go on Netflix, look up The Harder They Fall, and it's really really good. But I've always loved him, um, and I've always admired. I mean, he was played Heimdall in the Thor movies. I mean, he's just done a wide range of stuff, um, and he's always been one of my favorites. So this article reveals his next, or at least one of his next upcoming projects. Um, this article is on CBR, published by Jody Brown. And this article says acclaimed actor Idris Elba is set to pull double duty with his next major feature length project. The award winning star leads an upcoming film adaptation of the West End play This Is How It Goes, which he will star in and direct. Excuse me. According to Variety, Elba is attached to the big screen adaptation of Neil LaBute's This Is How It Goes, which will be produced and distributed by Apple Original Films. Elba will be in the director's chair, working from a screenplay by Nathaniel Price, known for penning Mr. Loverman and the Outlaws. The film also marks partnership between Elba's new production company, 22 Summers, and Gaumont, as they are co-producers on the project for Apple. This Is How It Goes is a tense psychological thriller set in small-town America. The play explores the story of high school sweethearts turned married couple, Cody, a former high school track star turned businessman, and Belinda, a cheerleader turned stay-at-home mom, who randomly run into a high school acquaintance named Man and decide to take him in. However, housing the acquaintance upsets the balance of the couple's relationship, with the play exploring the repercussions of an interracial love triangle. Elba played Cody in the West End play after Highest and Lowest's Jeffrey Wright was in the role for the off-Broadway version. However, Elba will portray a different character for the big screen iteration, although his new role hasn't been confirmed. No other cast members have been announced. This sounds really, really interesting. You know, this, taking this kind of, there was a movie that came out a while back, um, a few years ago actually, called The Gift, with Jason Bateman and Joel Edgerton. And it was directed by Joel Edgerton. And it kind of, as far as the reason I bring that movie up is because this sounds similar to that in terms of high school buddies becoming reacquainted and rekindling their friendship, and then finding out something mysterious about that old high school friend that isn't necessarily good news. And this sounds like that. And Idris Elba directing, that sounds really, really cool. And he obviously has experience doing the play, and but this sounds really, this idea of an interracial love triangle. I think that sounds appealing. I think this could. It sounds like this marriage is going to be put to the test. And I mean, let's face it. I think, and I say this as a joke. I think any marriage would be put to the test if Idris Elba got involved. I mean, all I'm saying is, I had an extremely, extremely brief exchange with Idris Elba. Like I said, I worked on a movie that he was in, and he walked by me, and in that smooth English accent, he said, "Morning, brother, how are you?" And I melted. I melted. So, I mean, let's just, if Idris Elba interjects him, and I mean this as a joke, obviously, but you know, um, but in all seriousness, this sounds really interesting. Idris Elba obviously has, um, he draws money. So Idris Elba being involved in anything, audiences are going to be interested in it, and he's certainly one of my favorite actors. Um, and this sounds really. It sounds like the plot of this like this could be like one of your edge of the seat kind of movies, just waiting to see what happens. And I love that. And no, given the details that are revealed about this project, I think this sounds really, really, really interesting. So jump in the comment section and let me know what your thoughts are on this. This is how it goes. Psychological thriller film adaptation. Um, so let's move on here. So one of my most anticipated upcoming films, as I've been revealing, is the upcoming Highlander remake. That started out as a film that I had no interest in, and I was frankly scoffing at the idea of it, to becoming a movie that I'm deliriously excited about. And unfortunately, uh, the filming of that movie has been delayed. This article is on Joe Blow, published by Kevin Fraser. Now, I should point out, okay, so obviously I've been away from doing this show for a while. I should point out that this article was published 2 months ago. Um, so I just want to preface what I'm about to say with that. So this article was published 2 months ago on Joe Blow by Kevin Fraser. And this article says the long in development Highlander remake will have to wait a little longer. Production was believed to be kicking off later this month, so this was, yeah. But Deadline has heard that Highlander star Henry Cavill has been injured while training for the film, which has forced a delay. The outlet reports that production likely won't begin again until early 2026. So we're still getting the movie, but they hadn't started filming yet. Henry Cavill was like this article says, Henry Cavill was training and he injured himself. I think it was his ankle. He injured his ankle. So they won't start filming until next year. But and again, this article was published 2 months ago, so I don't know. I mean, hopefully he is doing well, doing better. Hopefully his recovery is hopefully he's doing well. I'm glad that the film isn't being delayed for creative reasons. It sucks that Henry Cavill got injured while training for the film. I hope he's okay. I hope he recovers well. I think that I think this movie is going to be awesome. I just want to say that this gives me an opportunity to talk about Henry Cavill's career for a second. I think that after Man of Steel, I think that Henry Cavill was an actor who for who like I mean, let's face it, Henry Cavill became a household name after Man of Steel. And I think after Man of Steel, um, what's the best way to say this? Sorry, I'm struggling today. I think after Man of Steel, it seemed as if Henry Cavill, in terms of film projects, was he had every opportunity to be to become a huge name, a huge movie star. I just think, unfortunately, audiences decided differently. I don't know why. I mean, he was in after Man of Steel. I mean, he was in things like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which nobody saw, with Armie Hammer. He was recently in what was it? The spy movie that he was in. Um, um, I'm forgetting. Uh, the Ministry of the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Nobody saw that. There have been a number of film projects that I mean, it seemed like after playing Superman, after Man of Steel, Henry Cavill was handed. He could have easily become a huge movie star, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And I say that not as a criticism of him. I say that as I think I think we're in a time now where audiences are going to choose. I think the days of the movie star are dead, is what I'm trying to say. I think we've been in a time for a few years now where audiences are going to pick who they want to see instead of having Hollywood choose for us. And I'm not saying that Henry Cavill doesn't deserve to be a huge movie star. I think, unfortunately, and I'm not saying the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare was a bad movie. I'm not saying The Man from Uncle was a bad movie. I'm simply pointing out that for whatever reason, audiences weren't interested in seeing those movies. And if you think I'm wrong, you can look at the box office results of specifically those two films. And it's a shame because I mean, Henry Cavill is a wonderful actor. I mean, obviously he had great success on The Witcher, and has he's a huge geek, um, and hopefully this Highlander remake will turn things around for him because he's only getting older and he's only going to be around for so long. And I always want people to be successful, and this delay of Highlander remake gives me personally an opportunity to talk about Henry Cavill's career a little bit, which is this is why I'm talking about it, is because I personally thought, especially after Man of Steel is one of the few, as far as the previous DCU film franchise goes. Man of Steel is one of the few ones in that previous franchise that I love. I love Man of Steel. And I don't know about anybody else, but I personally thought that Henry Cavill's career was going to take off. Um, and, years later, he showed up in the post-credits scene of the Black Adam movie. And I was like, holy shit, he's back. I personally thought Henry Cavill's career was going to take off. And for whatever reason, it didn't. It would, and I say all this as a fan of Henry Cavill. I really enjoy his work as an actor. I hope that audiences go to see this Highlander remake. If it's good, I hope people see it. That's all I'm saying, because it seems as if he was starting to enjoy the success of playing Superman, but it also seems that audiences chose differently, and it's a shame. I want people to be successful. I want people to enjoy their careers, and it and again, I'm not saying that I don't know what the answer is. I'm saying that for whatever reason, people chose not to see The Man from Uncle. People chose not to see The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. People love The Witcher. But I think other than Superman, it seems as if people aren't interested in seeing him, and I don't know why. Maybe someone can answer that for me. I don't know. But I hope this Highlander remake is good. And I hope people go to see it, because I would love to see. I would love to see kind of. I would love to see people excited, and look, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm way off base. But I would love to see people excited to see Henry Cavill again. You know, if you think I'm wrong, tell me. But that's how I feel. But anyway, it's I'm it's it. I'm glad that the Highlander remake is not being delayed for creative reasons. Obviously, I hope Henry Cavill is okay. I hope his recovery is going well. I'm glad that the movie isn't being delayed too long. I'm glad it's still coming. I hope it's good. I'm so excited for this. So jump in the comment section and let me know what your guys' thoughts are on what I have to say about this. So let's move on here. Um, so one of speaking of movies that I'm excited for to see, I've been talking recently about this Chris Hemsworth uh, submarine movie, Subversion, every bit of news regarding that movie, it gets me more and more excited for it. So there's been some more casting news regarding that movie. This article is on Deadline, published by Anthony D'Alessandro. And this article says Gangs of London actor Joe Cole is joining Amazon MGM Studios' submarine thriller Subversion, opposite Chris Hemsworth, Lily James, Michael Pena, Simone Kessel, Robert John Burke, and David Wenham. Um, so let's see. Um, there's not much other information to go on. I know that Joe Cole was in Green Room, and oh my God, Green Room is you have to see it. Let's see here. Uh, he was also in there was a I think Julia Roberts movie called The Secret in Their Eyes, which I heard wasn't very good. Um, but he was in that. So other than that, I'm not too familiar with his work. But again, more casting news means they're going to be filming soon, if not already. So that has me very excited for this movie. God, I love submarine movies. Is that a thing? Um, I love these. Hopefully, it's good. Um, you know, and again, I'm just very excited to see it. So, I don't have much to offer other than because there's not many details about the character that Joe Cole is playing. But I don't have much to offer other than that. More casting news means they're going to be filming soon, if not already. So I'm very excited for this movie. Um, so jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys' thoughts are on Joe Cole joining Subversion. Um, I wanted to talk. This next bit of news is very sad for me to talk about. As I'm sure it was when it happened. So back in September, um, Robert Redford died at the age of 89, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit because I haven't I hadn't done a show since he died, and um, I wanted to talk about the passing of Robert Redford for a little bit. You know, uh, as I've gotten older, for me personally, um, I have found watching older films and studying film history for me personally, is very important because um, I think cinema history. I think cinema history is important, and where the film industry is now is because of the giants of the film industry that came before that came before. And as I've gotten older, uh, you know, I was always aware of um, who Robert Redford was, um, and his kind of legacy, but I hadn't really uh, seen much of his work. But as I've gotten older, that changed, and you know, uh, I've seen more. I've obviously seen more of his stuff. I mean, Butch and Sundance is a classic. I mean, it really is. Um, it was funny. I was talking with my mom because there were two movies that Robert Redford did with Paul Newman. One was uh, the first was Butch and Sundance, and then the second one was The Sting. And I was talking with my mom. I just happened to mention that I hadn't seen The Sting, and she was like, "Oh my God, you need to see The Sting." And I'm like, I know, I know." Um, but I will say that as I've gotten older, and I know this sounds weird for someone of my generation to say, but as I've gotten older, Robert Redford became one of my favorite. Uh, Became one of my favorites to watch. Um, I'm a huge fan of the original Twilight Zone, and he was in an episode of that. I think he played Death. Um, and I was like, oh, Robert Redford did an episode of the Twilight Zone. That was really cool. Um, and then I remember the news broke uh, that he was going to do he was going to be in the Marvel film, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was going to be in the Captain America Winter Soldier. And I was like, whoa. Like, Robert Redford, that was one of those moments where, you know, it says a lot about the. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. It says a lot about the quality of these Marvel movies when you can get a Robert Redford involved in them. A lot of people kind of turn up their nose, oh, a movie based on a comic book. These movies have an impact on people, and audiences love them. And for me, I found out that Robert Redford was going to be in it, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. Like that, like to me, the script must be really, really good for Robert Redford to be involved in it. And as it turned out, the plot of Captain America, specifically Captain America Winter Soldier, um, which was the second one, the plot of that movie is very akin to the kinds of movies that he did in the 70s. These political thrillers. 3 Days of the Condor, which he did with was it Faye Dunaway, and then what was All the President's Men that he did with Dustin Hoffman, which is great. All the President's Men is, oh my God, it's so good. Sneakers, which is great with fucking Ben Kingsley and River Phoenix. Who else is in that? Dan Aykroyd, Sidney Poitier, David Strathairn. Sneakers is great. If you guys haven't seen Sneakers, it's wonderful. And then, of course, Robert Redford being the um, he was a big supporter of independent film, um, and he was one of the co-founders of the Sundance Film Festival, and I may or may not have know people who have been to Sundance. You know, not that I'm trying to toot my own horn or anything, but Sundance is a pretty big deal. And I found out a couple people that I knew in the film industry were going to be at Sundance. We're going to go to Sundance, and I was like, whoa, that's like I know people who went to Sundance. But he was a very very big supporter of independent film, and he became quite a capable director as well. What there was a movie. It's gonna bug me. He won director, the Oscar for Best Director for Ordinary People. And I think he directed The Horse Whisperer with Scarlett Johansson. I think. There was one of the last movies he did was a movie called All Is Lost, where he played a sailor and his boat collides with a shipping container, and his boat starts flooding, and he has to, uh, fix the, fix his boat and be rescued. And the movie looked really great to me, and I heard it was very great. And then I heard it was great, and then the last movie he did was The Old Man and the Gun. Well, he made a brief appearance in Avengers Endgame, but the last movie that he did with a starring role was The Old Man and the Gun, which with Sissy Spacek, who I also love. And I remember reading that he announced that movie was going to be his last movie. And I remember reading that he regretted announcing that he was going to retire after the release of that movie, because all of a sudden the movie became about his retirement and less about the actual movie. And but he he was one of these icons of cinema, and he had a very kind of naturalistic kind of, in my mind at least, he kind of had a very naturalistic, very minimalistic approach to acting. Like it was for me at least, watching him, it was less about his facial expressions and more about the tone in which he spoke. You could tell how he was feeling, how his character was feeling, less by watching his eyes and more about the cadence in which he spoke. And that was, I think, a very different approach to acting that I had ever seen. So that's one of the reasons it was very interesting for me to watch him. And he lived in New Mexico. And like I said, I mean, being a he was a huge supporter of independent film, like I said. But it was as as I've gotten older, Robert Redford became for me someone who I had a great appreciation for, and easily became someone who, like, oh, Robert Redford's in this movie, I need to watch this. You know, like one of those people. Um, and so I just wanted to say a few words about Robert Redford. Um, my, I was a little, to be honest, I was a little surprised to hear of his passing. Um, but I mean, it wasn't like he was young. I mean, what I mean by that is like he lived a good long life. I mean, he was 89. I mean, he had a very, very good career. Very good career. And I would love to see what's the movie that he did with Barbara Streisand. Um, um, was it The Way We Were? Was that it? I need to see that. I need to see The Natural. That's the other one. Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, Nate, you haven't seen The Natural?" I'm like, "No." Like, it's not that I don't want to. It's just I haven't had the time. Um, but I need to see more of his work. But from what I have seen, I really have enjoyed. I really enjoyed watching him, and he was um, what's Jeremiah Johnson? I need to see that. There's a lot of and I think because he was such a big supporter of independent film, um, and a big supporter of upcoming filmmakers. I think that's one of the reasons he was such an icon. Um, and if you if you want if you want to watch something that will just make you smile, there's this show that I used to love watching called Inside the Actors Studio. And at the end of each episode, the host of the show, James Lipton, would do this kind of questionnaire to the guest, like what sound or noise do you love? What's your favorite? What profession? He would do this kind of questionnaire of what's your favorite this, what's your least favorite this. And if you want to watch something that just makes you smile, watch Robert Redford doing that, answering that questionnaire. It'll something that it's something that'll just bring you a lot of joy. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about my experience watching Robert Redford. So yeah, and he was. I mean, the term icon gets thrown around quite a bit. Sometimes, sadly, in some cases, it's unnecessary. But I think in the case of Robert Redford, the word icon is appropriate. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to say a few words. Um, but anyway, so yeah, so let's. I wanna move on here and finish up this episode. Um, so more casting news has come out about the movie that I just mentioned, Subversion. So Teresa Palmer um, is going to be in this is going to be in Subversion. Um, this article is on Joe Blow, published by Steve Saig. This article, a little bit into it, says Teresa Palmer, from A Discovery of Witches, Warm Bodies, and Lights Out, will board Patrick Volrath's upcoming submarine thriller Subversion. Um, let's see. Teresa Palmer is joining Chris Hemsworth, Lily James, Michael Pena, and Joe Cole as a primary cast member, with David Wenham, John Burke, and Simone Kessel also in the cast. So, a primary cast member, meaning, like, I wonder if she's going to play, um, like Chris Hemsworth second in command or something like that. So I wonder about that. Um, so Teresa Palmer was also in the mystery series, The Family Next Door, and she was in Lights Out, which is Lights Out is awesome. Lights Out is so good. So yeah, I just wanted I just wanted to announce that there's very little to go on, but Teresa Palmer is going to be in this new in that submarine Subversion movie. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. One last bit of news here. So you might recall in recent episodes I've been talking about this Jeremy Saulnier, this new Jeremy Saulnier film, October. Jeremy Saulnier directed Green Room, and I think Blue Ruin. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, but he's doing this new movie called October. And there's been some casting news regarding that. Um, this article is on Deadline, published by Matt Grobar. And this article says, young Mazino from Beef and Stephen Root from Barry have signed on for supporting roles in October, writer-director Jeremy Saulnier's new film for A24, which earlier today added Stanley Simons to the ensemble. As we told you first, no other word yet on character details for the duo. I talked about in a previous episode that it's going to be like a fugitive thriller set during Halloween. So that sounds really, really cool. I'm not too familiar with young Mazino. I love Stephen Root. Stephen Root is one of my favorite. To me, he's kind of like a character actor. He was in he was in Dodgeball. As the guy who you got to get angry, you got to get mean, and Stephen Root at the end is like, he sees his wife cheating on him and he gets angry, and he was in obviously Office Space. You took my stapler. He's just a wonderful character actor, and Stephen Root is someone. He's one of these character actors that for me, like every time I see him, he makes me smile because he can do, so much, and just do a wide range of roles. There was something that he did recently. Maybe not recently, but there was something else that he was in. I know he was on Barry. He was on the Book of Boba Fett. There was something that he was in. It's going to bug me. Oh, Bombshell. He was. Oh my God! If you guys haven't seen Bombshell, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and he's great in that. let me see. He was in Get Out. Um, let me see. It's going. I do apologize. Um, oh yeah, he was on The Big Bang Theory. He was on The Big Bang Theory. That's great. Um, um, he was in the Lone Ranger movie with Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer, which I actually I didn't love that movie, but I didn't hate it either. I was like this movie's okay. This movie's all right. I mean, he was in J. Edgar. Stephen Root is a wonderful character actor. Um, I'm looking at his filmography right now. He just makes me smile every time I see him because he's so. Oh, that's the movie. He was in No Country for Old Men as he's the one who hires Wells. Um, or not Wells. Um, yeah, Wells. He hires. He's the guy who hires Wells. Um, he's just a wonderful character actor, and I love him. So him being in this movie is going. I mean, he can do drama. He can do comedy. Um, he's just wonderful. So I love that he's going to be in this movie, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of another movie directed by Jeremy Saulnier. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about young Mazino and Stephen Root um, being in Jeremy Saulnier's new movie October. Well, folks, that'll about do it for this episode. I might do one like I've said before. I have there's a lot to catch up on in the past few months. I'm going to try to talk about stuff that's not outdated information and stuff that's still relevant. Um, but I'm glad to be back doing this show. Uh, I'm glad you guys are enjoying the show. I did get a comment on one of my last videos from a former coworker of mine. Saying it's good to have you back doing these videos. Former coworker of mine, Rain. We always used to. He always used to call me Nate Dogg at work, and I would be like Rain, and but I it's good to hear from you, buddy. I miss you. I hope all is well with you. And but yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, and I might be on a little later. We'll see. But I did want to get at least one episode in before Thanksgiving. I know it's a crazy time for everybody out there right now, and but I wanted to do at least one show before Thanksgiving, before Thursday. So with that, I will end this particular episode 34 of the Unstoppable Entertainment Show. I hope all continues to be well with everyone out there, and as always, I will see you at the movies.